Bernie has, for me personally, that a way he kind of grabbed me was his emotion, and
Yes.
that you can like really see this genuine emotion from him. And as a national delegate for Washington State, at the convention, what do you feel was one of those emotional moments or powerful moments? Maybe not about Bernie in general, but about the convention, good or bad.
Well, I can tell you the worst one. Um, and this is probably going to sound bad, but the very first speech that was given, the invocation by the pastor, it ended with the words, "God bless our nominee, Hillary Clinton." And to be blunt, that was a slap in the face. That was a punch in the gut because that was the very first speech on Monday, and it just kind of went downhill from there. Every speech on Monday was written and presented from the perspective that the vote had already been taken and there was only one candidate, and the 1,900 people that were there in the room to support Bernie Sanders might as well just be quiet because we didn't matter. And it really hurt. And to my mind, it was extremely disrespectful. But it wasn't just disrespectful to us as delegates for Bernie Sanders, it was disrespectful to the process because we had been promised. And Grant, you got to remember, so how many people were freshmen? This was the first convention. They came supporting a candidate who really, really inspired them to work harder than they'd ever worked before in their lives. Um, and so we were promised to be able to cast 1,900 votes, and we were expecting a little bit of pushback, but we were not expecting to be slapped in the face every single speech. The reaction in the hall, which you might not have seen from the television, was really negative because they insulted us. I can understand doing nomination speeches. I can understand saying, this is why Hillary is a great candidate for the nomination, and this is why Bernie would also be a great candidate for the nomination. If they had done that, and they had shown what Hillary had done over the last 30 years and what Bernie had done over the last 40 years. And these are fantastic candidates, and they both represent what the Democratic Party could strive for. I think the hall would have erupted in cheers every single speech. But instead of doing that, instead of doing the honorable thing and honoring the process, which said that the votes will be taken on Tuesday, here are the nomination speeches for both candidates, they ignored one and focused on the other, and we really felt angry about that. And that was one of the things that prompted the walkout on Tuesday. Is, I mean, some people would probably have done it anyway, but not as many, because it wasn't about Bernie Sanders. It was about us being silenced. And that really hurt. And I'm almost tearing up now remembering it. It'll be a couple more weeks before my emotions kind of calm down from the massive sine waves that I felt last week. But it was really hurtful what they did. And that's one of the reasons why I feel like I have to stay involved. Because if I can explain how that felt and say, this is how you can make a convention to where everybody feels welcome and we feel good about supporting the eventual nominee, then I have to be in the room to explain that to the people who will write the next agenda. I have to. I don't have a choice.
Wow, you almost just made me tear up right there because I kind of imagined like to add insult to injury that just days before we kind of had the DNC leak thing happen, and so we knew that it was kind of an unfair fight from the beginning, and we knew how close it was even with the leaks, the information from the leaks that came out, even with the tampering. So I definitely can understand how that was a powerful moment and how it could be hurtful and hard to get over. And I really appreciate you sharing that with us, Chad.
Yeah.
If you need me to give you a second, I can.
No, I'm good.
All
Go.
right. All right. So a big thing we've heard, the biggest upsell for Secretary of State Hillary Clinton has been that defeating Donald Trump is the main objective, and she is the one person that can do that. What is a reason other than defeating Donald Trump to support Hillary over maybe a Jill Stein, or maybe to those people who say, I'm just going to sit at home because I don't like Jill, Hillary, or Trump?
Well, I'm going to address that second part first. If anybody feels so upset about the presidential nomination process that they don't feel comfortable voting for anybody in the presidential race, I can understand that. I really can. But the president is not the only race on the ballot. We've got the U.S. Senate that we have to take back. We've got the U.S. House that we have to take back. We've got governors that are in serious competition all across the country. We've got state legislatures that are mostly under Republican control. And I mean, especially here in Washington, we've lost the Senate because we've had somebody file as a Democrat, run as a Democrat, and then caucus with the Republicans to give them the majority. And we have to take back the Senate. We are 1 or 2 votes away from losing the state house. So if you don't feel comfortable voting for a presidential candidate, I can understand that and I will respect that. But the local and state candidates and the ballot measures and everything else on that ballot need you to exercise your right and your responsibility to vote. You can skip a race if you really feel you need to. Please don't skip an entire ballot. Please. On the other thing, as far as what Hillary has going for her, I don't think that I'm in a place yet to be able to describe that. Hillary Clinton has said that she wants to be known as a great president, and she claimed the label of progressive back in 2008, and she still claims it. Personally, I think she does not have a clear understanding of what that means in 2016. We need to teach her what that means. And as far as I'm concerned, the only way to influence her is to stay within her circles of influence. I'll say a little bit about Dr. Stein. She's a wonderful human being, but again, she's got no plan to win the Electoral College, and she has no ability to teach people how to be effective activists. Now, agitators, yes, but not activists that I've seen. Activism to me is answering 3 questions. What decision is being made? Who is making that decision? How can I influence that decision? Whether you're talking internal party stuff, like who gets the endorsement, or if you're talking legislation where it's a committee that's considering an amendment, or it's the president getting ready to consider whether he or she should sign that piece of legislation. If you're not focused on figuring out who is making what decision and how you can influence that person, you're not actually accomplishing what you want done. And from what I've seen, the Green Party doesn't get that. I'd love to be proved wrong on that, but that's what I've seen.